welcome to the IT and Info Security and Risk Intern presentations. Wanted to kick it off with a quick intro on the program and a little bit of a review. Wanted to go through the IT intern mission statement here is create an opportunity for interns to gain effective career experience while meeting Amway's needs for talented, capable, and business-minded problem solvers. I am very confident that we have a group of interns that fulfill all of those. They're very talented, they're very capable, and they are business-minded, as you will see shortly. So be encouraged proactively. Real quick, run through the agenda. You might notice that it is group projects. It's hybrid, right? Because we're trying to do some hyper-convergence on how we do presentations for interns. So we have some groups and we have some individual presentations, and we actually allowed it this year for the interns to select which one they wanted to do. So I don't have to run through the list. This is just a high-level agenda. And then I will help conclude and keep us on time for around 2:30, and feel free to stick around till 3 p.m. for some collaboration and social time. So the presentation goals for today, for our interns to share and articulate, because they can articulate, is who they are, what they worked on and delivered, what was learned from that, and an interesting twist for this year is what are Amway's or Amway IT's opportunities for improvement? What are our opportunities from an outside-in perspective, from an intern's lens? So I thought that would be interesting. Some chose to do it, some didn't, because they didn't want to, look like a bad guy. And I get it, because it's a lot to ask. But it's a little bit different shaping of what we're looking at. And I wanted to show the presentation framework too. So with the two different types of presentations, we are shooting for, this is a high-level target, but they're smart, right? We can measure these, and they're specific. Anyways, for individuals, 5-minute presentation, 2 minutes for questions. I'm gonna help moderate that at the end of their presentation, and I'm asking for applause, and then the person will come up next. And then for the group, obviously the time limit will vary depending on the size of the group. Time limit will vary for questions as well, but we will keep it limited. Similar, ask for applause and up next. So first up, we have Ben Metzger and Steven Kaiser. And they're walking all the way from the back, so.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out today. Okay. My name is Steven Kaiser.
And I'm Ben Metzger.
And this past summer we worked on the trend proxy.
So before we dive into our actual presentation, just a quick overview about who we are and what we're doing. I go to school at Michigan Tech, where I am studying computer networking and system administration. I'll be starting my senior year there. At Tech, I'm involved in a few things in the community, as well as on campus, such as Search and Rescue, the PEP Band, and MindTracker STEM Outreach. Here at Amway, I am a return intern, and this year I am working on the Information Security and Risk team.
I attend school at Grand Valley State University, going for a degree in computer science. Outside of work at Amway, I enjoy spending my time making virtual reality games for a startup game studio on the Hill Studios. Also in my free time, during the winter, I enjoy to snowboard, and during the summer, I enjoy to wakeboard. Here at Amway, I've been working in our infrastructure public cloud team, where I work very closely with our Amazon Web Services.
All right, so what are we doing here? So before we really dive into how we accomplish this, we're going to go through our project problem statement, and we're going to awkwardly read this off the screen here for a sec, so follow along if you wish. Select Amway public cloud accounts enforce strict outbound firewall rules that prohibit unrestricted access to the internet as an additional security measure. The Trend Micro Deep Security as a Service solution provides endpoint protection of systems in the public cloud and requires access to the internet in order to function properly. A cost-effective and secure method must be developed that meets security and connectivity requirements.
So what does that mean in layman's terms? So we can try and make it as simple as possible. Essentially, all of our cloud endpoints need some sort of security. For that, we use Trend Micro. Now, the way that Trend Micro operates, it needs to send information out over the internet to determine, is this file safe, is it not, can we allow this, all the security things that it does. Now, the problem comes into play with some of our cloud accounts want to restrict the outbound access. They don't want to allow that endpoint to have access to the entire internet. It makes sense. You want it to be secure. So to do this, we used a forward proxy to filter all those outbound requests.
All right, so this is what we worked on for our actual project. Before we really dive into this, Steven's going to tell us about the development first, but we're going to try to keep it at a relatively high level to start out with, and if you have questions or wish to dive deeper, we'd be happy to follow up with you after the meeting.
All right, so starting out, the Squid proxy is what it's called, because the software that it runs through is called Squid. That's in the white. So starting out, we use a private hosted zone. This allows us to have all of our endpoints point to a single website name. So for example, amwaysquid.com as its direction to go when it wants to connect to the proxy. This really only forwards it onto an elastic load balancer, which is tied with an auto-scaling policy. What this does for us is it allows us to have mass scalability so that no matter what kind of load of requests we send towards the proxy, it will scale up or down based on our needs. Then this disperses those requests out amongst a group of containers. So a container really, it's just an application at its core, at its most basic form. It's an application where you don't have to worry about the operating system that surrounds it or any security updates. Amazon handles that for us. So that's just what a container is, and that's where we have the Squid proxy actually running on.
All right, and so while Steven's side of the project was more of the development of the proxy, my side was to implement it and to make it work between our cloud endpoints and the internet. And so one of the biggest problems we had in this was how do we deploy this? Because it uses private IP addresses, so each of the endpoints can connect to the proxy without having an internet connection. But in order to do that, we need to have the proxy deployed in every single one of our accounts. Now this gets to be a nightmare when it comes to administrating. So from the Trend Micro side, in order to not have 75 plus different proxies listed inside of that tool, we decided to use a URL and we gave it a DNS address. So rather than seeing every single one of these proxies, Trend Micro sees amwaysquid.com. And regardless of what area, region, account you're in within Amazon, it's always going to see the same proxy. So that makes it a little bit easier to administrate this tool. Now this is just one of the many use cases. Currently, we've identified that Trend needs this in our accounts, but it can also be used for a variety of different updates or various other one-off applications where an endpoint might need to connect to a very specific portion of the internet. When you see kind of in that bubble, a few options are updates for things like Microsoft, RHEL, or Ubuntu.
So just a quick summary of some of the technologies that were used to create this solution. Amazon Web Services for start. This proxy is being hosted in our public cloud environment. So Amazon Web Services is where we have that hosted. A big one is right there in the center. That's the symbol for CloudFormation. Now what this does for us is it allows us to automate the entire process of this creation for the Squid proxy. Essentially it's a 1 or 2 click update or deployment where you click that, you fill in what you want to name the proxy, so the naming convention, and then boom, it's all set up for you. Nice part about this as well is I was able to get it to a parameterized state such that by default, everything is filled in to be used for a Squid proxy. However, you could change any of these values to be for a specific use case, so that's not only restrained to this project for this team. This CloudFormation template could be used for many different services outside of only those that Ben had mentioned. So for things even like a web server such as Apache could run at this because that requires a load balancer and a hosted zone as well. So that was really nice to have just that variety of use cases outside of just this team. Squid is the software that we use for the forward proxy. There's a few different options, but Squid is one of the more popular ones, which is why we opted to go with that. And Docker is the technology that we use to containerize the Squid proxy so that we don't have to worry about the operating system and it keeps the maintenance lower for us, so it's less complex. And then all of this was developed for the specific use case in this scenario of Trend Micro.
All right, so now let's dive into some of the key takeaways that we had from this summer with some lessons learned and feedback for Amway.
So to start off, AWS documentation would oftentimes fall short of my needs because it's a very generic set of information and you have to filter through it to find what's my specific use case. And so it was just a lot of dancing around these abstract documentations and information and trying to figure out how do I apply that to my specific scenario.
And that kind of gets at a gap that we found between the classroom and what we're reading in textbooks and working on in classroom labs, as well as the real-world business application of things. An example of this was when we ran into all of the different Amazon accounts that Amway maintains. And from a global company like that, it makes sense. However, in the classroom, you have access to a single Amazon account in a single lab with X, Y, and Z access where it's very difficult to break anything. Now you come here, and we were only given access to the lab, which, thank goodness, because we would have screwed royally. But you have all these different accounts, and you have to try to figure out, now, how are we going to take this application like Squid and deploy it across all of these accounts and have that actually function and administrate that?
So a solution for quite a number of these problems or complications we ran into is public forums. They are the greatest source of knowledge that you can ever find on the internet. It's essentially where anybody that's ever had a problem or a project can post online anywhere the problems they ran into for their project and the solutions they use to fix that. So while your project might not be the exact same as what they did, areas of that or topics of that may interweave with their solutions and their problems, and so that's where you can find a lot of your solutions.
Another really amazing opportunity that we had this summer was to learn all of these different new tools that we saw a couple slides ago. Tools like Trend Micro and Amazon Web Services are really hot and important on the market right now, and we get a little bit of that inside of our classes, but it's really nice to see the real-world examples of that and actually have the opportunity to learn by doing rather than just what you're reading in a book.
Last but not least, the most recent and newer technology is not always perfect for your specific use case. When you're an early adopter of something that's come out recently, in this case, it was the technology used to control that group of containers. It's called a cluster. There's two ways we can control that inside of AWS. One is called Fargate, and the other is called EC2 clusters. Fargate is the more recent option. It came out within the last year, and it keeps the maintenance at the absolute minimum possible, which is ideal for our scenario, what we want. The complication comes into play with it's so recent, it's only available in the US. So this came to my attention about halfway into development, so I had to adapt to this realization and start developing for both Fargate and EC2 clusters.
All right, now just some general feedback from our summer experience. First of which is definitely a positive. We had training that was very, very readily available to us. Within days of Stephen and I being here, we both had access to Linux Academy, which is just a pool of all sorts of different training, tutorial videos, and that kind of thing where we could spend some time and kind of get up to speed with the team and learn things such as Docker, AWS, Linux in general, all sorts of things like that.
Now, something that could have been a great help and will be a great help in the future is access to the This Way mobile app. You would not believe the number of texts I have sent Ben saying, "Where is this conference room?" or "I'm lost" is two very common words from me. So the app provides the ability to say, "This is the conference room I'm looking for," and it'll show you exactly where that is on campus.
Another really amazing thing that we experienced this summer was the team member willingness to help. Anytime that Stephen and I ran into a question, it was very easy to turn around, ask our team. You know, they're very open to taking time out of whatever they're working on to help us learn. And if they're in the middle of something, they're like, hey, can we set up a time later? And then we'll get up to speed with the rest of the team and what's going on.
Ending on a really, really high note, something that was absolutely awesome during this internship that I haven't experienced before was the ability to work on a cross-functional project. So Ben is an information security risk, and I'm an infrastructure public cloud. Now, those aren't very similar departments. However, this project brought it together, and I would meet with Ben about every other day, if not every day, for this project, just so we were aware of what's he working on, what am I working on, where are we at, and who's responsible for X, Y, and Z. It was just a very, very neat experience and different from what I've experienced before.
Overall, we'd say the summer experience was very, very awesome for us, and we really enjoyed it. Now we'd like to take a minute to entertain any questions you might have.
So this is a technical question based on your comment on your outside connections to the internet. You referenced that you had to have you connected to private IP addresses. Can you tell us how you identified those and why were they private IP addresses?
So a private IP address is a specific block of addresses assigned by Aaron, which is who assigns all of the IP addresses globally. And those addresses are not accessed by anything on the internet. So those are the things that run on your home address or your home router, per se. So when you print to your wireless printer from your cell phone, that's going through your router on a private IP address. And this is not anything that we identified. It's just a global standard of the 3 blocks of private IP addresses that we use within the Squid proxy. No.
We did not try IPv6. I can further with that. Squid proxy, I know specifically does not support IPv6. I'm sure there are a few proxies that do. It's just along with that newer technology, it's much more difficult to adopt.
Good afternoon. My name's Caleb Cunningham, and I'm a supply chain planning intern. And I go to Grand Valley State University. I'm a sophomore, and I'm studying information systems, and I'd like to look into information security. So my first key project was the Visio diagrams. So we have a supply and shop batch process. And what they are, they're a series of smaller processes that run, and they compile a plan on a weekly and nightly schedule for where our raw materials and products are going to move in between markets and within the markets themselves. So my Visio diagram, it depicts all the processes that run within that within that batch process, and it shows the connections between the jobs, between the steps, and which ones rely on which conditions they might have to run. And what this lets us do is communicate this to non-IT people. So big thing is telling people how this works, and giving just a verbal description usually doesn't cut it. It takes a lot of time. This visualization is very important. It really expedites the communication, allows us to show what happens in the batch process, especially to people who aren't in IT. My second key project was the Jira dashboard. What I did was use the Jira and Confluence websites to create a dashboard that pulls from our tickets, our issues, which are created whenever a job fails, and it pulls out the root cause. So the root cause tells us, why did this job fail? So this is a step towards analyzing our batch processes and try to make them what we call a self-healing batch, so we don't have to provide nearly as much maintenance, and so they sort of fix themselves. And you can see from the green portion of the graph that data issue is a big problem. So we can see that, we can look at that, and we can determine what do we need to do to fix data issues, what can we do to reduce these number of problems. The graph on the right is a graph of our actual steps, jobs in both our shop and supply batch processes, and it shows which ones have the most problems, so it's hard to read, but 161, as you can see, has quite a lot of problems. So we can look at that one. Why is that one having so many problems? Can we discontinue that? Can we solve those problems? So what I've learned from these projects. Supply and shop Visio diagrams, I used Visio and Atomic. Both of these programs were new to me, but I learned how to use Visio. It's pretty self-intuitive, not very difficult. Although reading and navigating on Atomic, that's very new. The data is very sort of complex to learn. You have to get a feel for it, but of course my advisors helped me a lot with that. The Jira dashboard and root causes. Jira is not too hard to use either. It's just the website I used with Confluence, so it has a lot of possibilities with graphs and pie charts, which I used, but it does have its limitations. So what I used with Confluence was just a workaround to get that graph on the dashboard to display properly. So it pulls the Confluence website that has the graph on it, shows it in Jira. Some of the problems with Jira, I would say, just limitations. The root causes, that graph, or the graph, sorry, for the problem jobs, it does not update automatically because it is just an Excel graph. So it's pulled through Confluence, but it must be updated manually. And that's because the root causes is the jobs are a custom field, so they can't be pulled automatically. Lastly, the elk stack analysis of log data. So this one's more interesting, I would say. It's an ongoing project, so it's not completed. But elk stack is an open source, 3 open source programs. It's Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. So it's basically a competitor of Splunk. So we can pull data from ideally Atomic logs into Kibana and then analyze them. So it's the second step after the Jira dashboard. Further, much more in-depth analysis into our batch processes and the problems that occur with it. Lastly, a couple Amway opportunities to improve. The first thing I noticed, I think, during my internship was communication. So communication to interns and our advisors about when meetings are and important information. Usually this was on time, but we did have a couple instances where it came rather late. It was important information. Maybe we had to miss a meeting. Maybe we should have known something that we didn't know before. This one's more specific to Amway IT. Our tickets and requests, I spent about the first week trying to get access to all the programs I needed. So if we could get these tickets to go through quickly, and especially clarity of what tickets we're creating, which ones we need to create, and how. Because it seemed like we lacked a lot of information on what tickets we needed to create. We didn't really know what we were doing. We were just sort of going by what people had heard. Lastly, this one's more specific to my team, but filtering of Jira Kanban boards. We have our tickets and we have problems with them filtering, going between our backlog board and moving in between the Kanban boards. So the filters, they often don't pull these tickets where we need them. If we update a ticket, it doesn't necessarily go where we want it to. So improving these filters to update automatically to pull the tickets we need would be great, and improve our efficiency, spend less time in the meetings to fix these problems. And that's it. Any questions? Yes.
Carrie Lucas, and thank you very much, Caleb, for the work that you've done for us.
Thank you.
First of all, great presentation. And my question is, if there's something that you would take back to your university, college, what would it be as advice?
Well, a lot of colleges, they don't factor in the customer idea, who you're affecting. So they tell you what you're probably going to be doing, but they don't tell you what happens afterwards. So think about who this affects, what your work is actually doing in the long run, who you're helping, whose lives will be changed by the work you're doing. I would say that.
Between the Visio diagrams and the Jira boards, then are those being shared with the business partners, or is that specifically just for IT?
So Visio diagrams, those are specifically for IT, but they can be used by anyone. So they're generally to help us communicate what those processes are doing and what they accomplish. And then the Jira dashboard is more for analysis. So it can also be used by anyone. It's up on Jira. I'm not sure what the permissions are, but it's for us to improve our batch process and try to reduce the problems we have with it. Currently, especially with shop, we have a lot of problems. We have team members who have to get up in the middle of the night to solve these problems manually. They have to do all the stuff themselves. So we could make that self-maintaining. That'd be great. Save us a lot of time and energy.
Okay, hello. My name is Christy Wolford. I am on IBS automation team. I go to Michigan Tech University. My major is in management information systems, and my minor is in computer science. So my project for this summer was to create a comparison report for robotic process automation tools to help choose which tool would be best for Amway. So you can see that I have a few comparisons between the humans and the robots. As you can see, the robots work longer, they are more productive, they don't make mistakes, and they don't take breaks or vacations. So a lot of people have asked me, what is the difference between robotic process automation and the automation that we currently do at Amway? And my answer to that is that RPA is taking a process that a person does, a repetitive, tedious process, and it automates it, allowing for that person to then use their time and energy on a task that is better for Amway, taking that and putting it towards the robot. So it does not take away the job of the person. It just simply frees up their time, allowing them to do a different task. So why are we looking at a different tool? We currently are using Assist Edge, which I worked on last year to get into the system at Amway. But we found some pain points that ultimately made us make this decision that we needed a new tool. So that's where I came in. My project was to do a lot of research. I found about 20 different robotic process automation tools, brought it down to 8, then 5, and now we have the final 2, which is actually UiPath and Automation Anywhere. So to find the requirements that best would fit for Amway, I talked to the contractor that was working with the current tool and found which pain points were really hindering his ability to continue with his work. I also talked to my advisor to get more ideas of what the requirements would be, as well as I did a lot of research on what other people found were good requirements for RPA tools. So after I kind of narrowed it down to a smaller pool, I sorted what I call the fluff, the pretty little things that the vendors show you, making you go, ooh and ah, I want that tool. So I dug in and I called them, I emailed them, I got in contact with them to find out, okay, what does your tool actually do? You're saying it's doing this, but does it actually do that? So I kind of badgered them a little bit, but I got their answers, and I have I'm creating a report, which I'm giving my team this Friday. They're going to take that report and go to a conference next week and use the research that I've done to hopefully choose the correct tool that best fits Amway and what our needs are. So some key takeaways that I have received from my second internship here is fail fast. I've heard this multiple times last year and this year, and I've seen it actually in the process of working as I've continued keeping an eye on the robotic process automation. We tried without a Assist Edge, and we had it for a year. We found out that it did not work for us. We failed fast. We got back up on our feet, and we're like, okay, we're ready to go find what works. And that was really cool to see and follow along with. Another thing was tenacity. Being able to continue to keep up with those vendors and making sure that they got back with me and gave me the correct information, checking back with them and making sure that it was indeed the correct information I received from them in the beginning. I also found out that there's no perfect solution. So we have a lot of problems, a lot of processes that we want to automate, but not one tool is going to fit every single process, or it's not going to be perfect for everything that we throw at it. So finding the tool that best fits as much as we can with the most diverse abilities was something that we focused on. Or even looking at two tools that could work for different groups, such as maybe finance versus HR. Another thing was corporate IT. I learned that when you're in a corporation or any other job, it's not just about, oh, do you know how to program? Do you know how to use computers? It's about learning also how to diversify and know business and know different things. So it's not just you being in your bubble, it's you being in the whole bubble. So that was very cool to again see this year. So with that, thank you for listening, and are there any questions?
Excuse me. First of all, thank you for the presentation and all the research work. My question is, and it kind of ties into your last thought there with corporate IT, with all the curriculum that you guys go through in school, and RPA in the context of an organization, like where it adds value, and it's a little bit different to what you would go through in school. Mm-hmm. So do you have anything to share from that perspective, that maybe in the new curriculums, what could be adopted as what you see here in the context of an organization? Yeah,
so I actually, as I said, my major is management information systems, and I just recently changed to that because I noticed that within my own curriculum as a computer science major, I never really got outside of that programming mood. I never got to learn what maybe how to write a business report was, or looking at comparison, or looking at different ways that a business really works. So even just diversifying what those classes are, using those extracurriculars, those extra electives to take those courses, or even just adding it onto it, because it's not just one thing that those courses or your school is going to be doing. It's most likely that maybe you don't do programming even though your major is computer science. Maybe you do something else, and having that diverse field is what I think they should maybe look into doing.
Quick question over here. As part of the evaluation, did you look at how we can port over existing workloads that's in RPA into the new tool?
So I know what we're doing right now is we're doing a lot of HR systems. What the tools that we're doing, I'm talking with finance on it. So what I actually did was I automatically assumed that it won't just be finance using it, it'll be other systems using it as well. I didn't want to narrow it down to just one group. So ultimately, I do believe that they will start looking at taking what we've already created with Assist Edge and putting it into the current one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gina DeHaan, and I go to Calvin College. I'll be graduating in December with a degree in organizational communication and a Spanish minor. This is my first summer interning at Amway, and it's been a really great experience getting to learn more about a new company as well as a new area of the business. So although I'm a communications major, I'm part of the information security and risk team. So I don't have a technical background, but I've been using my communication skill set to really help Amway leverage one of its greatest security resources, which is its people. So this summer, I'm leading a project to implement security awareness training on an annual basis for all global employees and contractors. So starting next year, everyone will have to go through a mandatory security awareness course. And this is both valuable and vital for Amway as we need to educate our employees on better ways to protect company as well as ABO and IBO information. So while hackers are certainly a threat to our security, human behavior is a major vulnerability when it comes to security as well. So when I approached this project, I really wanted to make sure that I was focusing on the end user. Delivering them content, training content that is not only understandable, but also something that would engage them and make an impact on the way that we work in our day-to-day jobs. So being from outside of the IS and IT background has actually helped me kind of provide that fresh perspective to this project, being able to understand which messages and concepts will really resonate with people who don't have a background in security or IT. So I have about a month left in my internship still, but so far I've been doing a lot of interacting with and evaluating vendors who provide security awareness solutions, as well as working closely with our global InfoSafe team. So at a high level, these are some of the key deliverables from my project charter. And one of the major things that I faced so far in my project is given that this is a solution that will be rolled out globally to over 20,000 employees, there's a really robust set of criteria that we had to consider when looking at potential vendors. So we need a solution that will be supported in many languages, a solution that will be globally scalable and relevant cross-culturally for our affiliates across the world, a solution that will be manageable by our team for years to come, and then, as I mentioned, content that's really engaging and impactful for all audiences. So throughout this process, I've really developed in my interpersonal communication skills as well as my project management and analytical skills, as I've had to assess nearly a dozen different vendors who provide these solutions and then collaborate with the global InfoSafe team to really figure out which solution might be the best fit for Amway. So as I mentioned, the global InfoSafe team has been a really valuable resource for me to use throughout this process. These are trainers who have ongoing efforts throughout the years and are really in tune with the needs of Amway and when it comes to security awareness. In addition to that, it's been a really unique experience getting to understand what's going on in our different regions, as well as working with people from all over the world. That's an experience that I haven't really had as fully in the past. So next month, I'll be making a recommendation to ISR leadership about which vendor I believe would be the best solution for Amway. And after that, working with them to strategize and plan out the design, rollout, and escalation of this solution. So I'm really looking forward to working with more internal Amway stakeholders, as well as seeing all of this work really come to life in a way that will touch all employees. So overall, through this process, we believe that we'll be able to improve Amway's security posture and practices in a measurable way. And from a team perspective, we hope that this will support and strengthen our InfoSafe brand. So we're a relatively new team, and hopefully this annual mandatory training will help open the gates so people will be encouraged and aware of the opportunities that our team provides throughout the year to really foster a strong security-aware culture. One major part of that is really creating a comprehensive year-round program that encompasses multiple different trainings and opportunities in our team. So we believe that engaging leadership is a key success factor in this process. leaders, you all as well as leaders across the company, really set the example for the rest of our company on how we should handle topics like security awareness. So whether that's attending trainings throughout the year or being vigilant in your day-to-day activities, it's really important. So you guys will be a key partner with us as we go through this initiative. And this will only continue to grow in importance as Amway goes through its digital transformation, and we'll be handling more and more information every day. So overall, I really appreciated the opportunity to apply my skills in a different field. That's something I'm not used to, and it was definitely very beneficial, and I learned a lot. So it's been great being able to work with a global team, working towards a global solution. So thank you all for this opportunity.
What tool did we decide, or did we, not so much for the content, but the delivery? Are we going to use LMS, or please say no?
That's something that's still up for debate. There's possibilities to do hybrid deployment, so you can host some content just for ease of access, like on the InfoSafe site, and access those courses through the LMS, but hopefully the actual training program that everyone will receive will come through a vendor LMS just for ease of maintenance and access and everything.
Great job. One quick question. Did you explore anything in the cloud opportunities to look at how that could complement or be used for this?
I did not, but that sounds interesting to me, so we can talk if you want.
So you're a very good spokesperson for ISR. Great job. So my question is on the recruiting side. So it's really interesting to hear your background. And when you went for this internship, as we're working with, the universities and recruiting from different, just degrees that individuals are going for, what was your deciding factor to take a change management comms position in a security and risk?
So I worked at Steelcase all last year, so I really developed an interest for corporate communication, and I think with a major so as broad as communication, you can really work in any industry, in any field. And so I think the biggest draw for me was being able to work in a global company. I grew up in Grand Rapids, so I knew Amway, knew it was a great company, and then also being a part of a really strong internship program where I knew I was going to be working on a project that would add value and develop my skills. So I think that's a good thing for intern programs to stress, is like you might not be in communications, but you'll still be doing communications work, and there's a lot of opportunities in that in terms of careers and whatnot. Yeah.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you guys for coming out. We are the Connected Experiences team. My name is Shelby Weber, and I'm on the Sky Mobile team.
My name is Anjali Verma. I'm on the Sky Mobile team.
And my name is Kyle Burns, and I'm on the IoT platform team.
So to start off, we're going to give a little introduction as to who we are. So like I said, my name is Shelby Weber. I go to Michigan State University. I'm studying computer engineering, and I enjoy skiing and working on my Arduino project in my free time.
My name is Anjali Verma. I go to Columbia University, and I'm majoring in applied physics. In my free time, I like to run and write short stories.
And my name is Kyle Burns. I go to the Penn State University at the Erie campus, and I am a senior in computer science. And in my free time, I enjoy playing guitar and traveling.
All three of us worked on agile teams, which means we were involved in the completion of general sprint tasks, so like documentation updates, feature implementations, bug fixes. But today we wanted to focus on a high-level discussion of our key projects and to offer you some of the actionable insights that we've drawn over the course of our internships.
So my key project this summer was working on automated testing and creating an automated testing suite. So automated testing allows continuous improvements and allows our developers to implement new features more rapidly. And so in the pictures, you can see the multiple Sky units that we have in our area and then some screenshots of the application. So our goal was to have both iOS and Android running overnight on multiple firmware versions, so when we come to work the next day, we can see any errors that occur, and we can also see screenshots that are implemented into our test to see if there's any interface issues with that as well. We decided to use in-house testing features, so using the terminal and Xamarin. That way we can actually test on our own Sky units, so we can see if there's any firmware issues or if there's any issue between different iOS and Android version, instead of using a mock-up to see what best results our users will get.
Okay, so my key project was focused more on analytics, And this summer I used SQL to gather data from our Sky telemetry, which is in our Amazon Redshift cluster, as well as in Adobe Analytics, and I used Tableau to visualize these results. So on the screen here, on the, the right side, we have an example of a Tableau dashboard. So this is something that was created by another member of our team. And it's a sample dashboard, and you can see there that it's super easy. You get a lot of data there, so there's the number of units sold, which areas of the globe they're in, how many units are connected, and there's a lot of information that's integrated in one place and that people can easily see. And then on the left, I have an example of one specific metric that I looked at, which was average mode usage. So we're on the Sky team. This is average mode usage per user for their Sky unit. And that was pretty characteristic of a lot of the data that I looked at. So I focused mostly on user interactions, seeing what pages were used the most, how long people were on a certain page, what journeys they took through the app, etc. And then answering these sorts of questions allow us to build better profiles of our users and to make sure that we are really always improving their experiences and meeting their needs.
The key project that I chose to focus on for this presentation was the continuous integration and continuous deployment pipeline that the IoT platform team has been working on. We wanted to leverage more of the AWS services that we've been using so heavily in our product experience already. So the way that AWS Code Pipeline works, which is the service that we've been using for this, is that you can have it automatically search your repository, whether it's GitHub or Bitbucket or AWS's own proprietary one, and it'll pull for changes. And when it detects one, it will take and preserve your Dynamo tables, for example for us, so you don't delete all of your data every time you go and redeploy your solution. Then it'll go and rebuild the infrastructure for you. Then it'll run the tests against the new infrastructure the way that you wrote them. And if it doesn't work and something goes wrong, it rolls back to a stable state. If not, it moves it forward and deploys your solution into the environment that you were targeting. So for us, we're using this to deploy straight to a test environment. And since the main function of our team is mainly to be the support for the IoT products that Amway uses, things like the body key and the Atmosphere Sky, the faster that we can get these changes and these improvements to the platform ready to go, the faster they can test it and the better that they can make their solutions that are customer facing. So if they request a feature, one of the recent ones we just did was outdoor air quality. When they want outdoor air quality, the faster we can get that into test, the faster they can make it work with their app and the faster we can get it out to the customers.
So next we're going to talk a little bit about what we learned through these different projects. So on the automated testing project, I learned how important and beneficial automated testing actually is. So manually testing can take a lot of time, and it can take a lot of different features away because we won't have time to implement them before other releases. So having this feature allows us to test our features and find any issues faster before our app releases to the public, and so it can better the user experience as well.
So yeah, I learned how data analysis can help grow loyal buyers by providing the best app experience possible. And so by consulting, like we said, the dashboards like you had seen before, by building that into all aspects of our product development, so design and then feature development as well as marketing, we can continue to ensure that everything we implement, all the content we produce and all the features that we produce, keep adding value to our users.
And what I learned from this this summer is about how we can better utilize the DevOps methodology to improve the quality of the code that we deploy and the rate at which we're able to deploy new features and new advancements. And all of this ties together so that we no longer have to spend a significant portion of our sprints on all of these deployments, so we can free up our time to continue to develop new and better solutions for what we already have in place.
So now we wanted to talk about the opportunities opened up for Amway IT by our projects and the ways that we can improve so that Amway can take gain as much value as possible from the stuff that we did this summer.
So for automated testing in particular, this testing suite, it could be open up to multiple teams on the Connected Experiences team, so that all of the testing can be done that way instead of manually testing. And right now we have it so we can run tests through the terminal on both iOS and Android on multiple different versions. So now our next goal is to be able to run them concurrently overnight, so that when we come in we can see the different errors, and then After that goal is completed, we are going to capture that through Raspberry Pis or CoolTerm, and then find a tool such as Tableau to visualize the data to see how many tests pass and fail and what we can do to make the user experience as best as possible.
Okay, so the biggest place for Connex to improve in terms of analytics is to move away from what we have now, which are a lot of like one-time data extracts or one-time data reports. These are they're definitely inefficient. As soon as data is extracted, within minutes it becomes outdated. It also creates a lot of friction because you have to email somebody or ask somebody to get an extract for you. And so I believe that without these sorts of extracts and with the use of live dashboards, you'll get less of that friction and more consultation of the data. And so by using the live dashboards, you get live engagement with our users and allows us to better understand their needs and to be able to make quicker changes in our design plans and in our marketing strategies to create more targeted marketing based on our users.
An opportunity for Connex and for Amway with the CI/CD pipeline is that other teams in IT can take a look at what we've done with our process, and they can apply it to their own solutions. You don't have to have a very intricate deployment for a solution like this to work. All you have to have is a code repository that needs to be deployed into a field for this kind of solution. And for just Connex specifically, like I touched on earlier, it really does help expedite the process of feature deployment, which really does enrich the platform that we have here at Amway.
So lastly, we just wanted to tie all three of our projects together and show how they contribute to our digital transformation. So Shelby's automated testing helps free up developer time on the front end, on the app development end, and Kyle's CI/CD pipeline helps to do a similar function for the back-end platform side. And so both of them, by increasing by decreasing our time to market and increasing the amount of time that the amount of releases we can have, that helps promote lean and agile development. And then combined with my user analytics, we can make sure that all the dev time that was freed up by their projects is put to good use by improving user experiences and meeting user needs, which will help us grow loyal buyers. So the combination of all three of our products is helping Amway to ensure that we are consistently improving, releasing, and most importantly, adapting at a rapid pace, one that is better suited to the constant change inherent in today's digital marketplace. Yeah, so thank you. And any questions?
So 2 questions. Can you tell us so first of all, great model line for DevOps and the CI/CD. For the company. Was there a connection between the automated testing and the deployment piece? Or were those done in different products? And then the second question is on the analytics side, once the dashboard's created, was the analysis or the data, whoever's making the decisions on that data, was that done within the product team or the business?
Okay, so do you want to take the
I can take the first question. Shelby and I do work on slightly different products, but we're connected. She works on the front end for the Sky mobile application, and I work on the back end for the platform. So the platform is just the support structure for the app. So her automated testing was more of the mobile features of the application, whereas our pipeline was just improving the deployment for all of the IoT devices that Amway has.
But yeah, I mean, the idea is applicable to any department, and it's important to have automation and testing in front end and back end, so you can, like we said before, move towards leaner development. And then, so what I've been doing, what we want to do now is to make it more of a business practice and to create that sort of infrastructure so that these dashboards are consulted all the time. So like I said, integrating it in every part of our product. So I think it would take definitely communication between product owners and then people who manage this data to know what people in marketing or what people who are involved in the more business side, what metrics they want to measure and what questions they want answered. So there's been a lot of cross-functional work that I've done where I've asked people what they wanted to see and then tried to meet those needs as best as possible.
So on yours, particularly the users, are they end consumers? If they are, how are you keeping their data private?
I don't know, actually. I mean, but we have it's not their names. We use party ID to track the data. I'm not sure specifically how we keep it private, though.
Why are you asking difficult questions, Joe?
Thanks. This is Manoj. So this is a question for Anjali. So Anjali, was the change deployed in production, or the dashboards, is it live data coming out of our production environment, or is it from a lower environment? That's question one. And did you or the users or the product owners that you worked with, based on the data that you were able to show, was there an aha moment that you can share with us where they said, oh, we didn't know that? That kind of, did you experience that?
Yeah, sure. So for telemetry data, that's from like out in the field. So all that data comes from production units. And then I think there were definitely moments where one of the things we looked at was what percentage of people like use certain features in the app. And we saw, like Kyle had mentioned, we had just released outdoor air quality this summer. And it's only been out for, I want to say, a few weeks, but it very quickly became like our second most used feature of the app. And so that was like a good insight to have, because we're trying to move towards a less product-centered model. So to move towards, I don't know, like the air ecosystem. Outdoor air quality isn't something that is linked specifically to a sky unit. Like a sky unit just filters your air. It wouldn't, you wouldn't necessarily make the link that outdoor air quality is something that people would want, but we took a risk and we put it in, and it was super interesting to see that, like how well it was doing and how much it was adopted. So I think like that's something where now looking forward, we can see, hey, people are really interested in this more ecosystem model and moving away maybe from being so product-centered.
Hi, my name's Jalen Bell. Bear with me, I'm not the best at public speaking. I'm an IT integration intern, and I go to Michigan State University. I'm a sophomore. I'm also a computer science major. This is my first internship. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and fun fact, all of my fingers have been broken at some point in my life. So they crack a lot. Okay, so my project is service virtualization and automation, and the goal of my project was to implement service virtualization and automation into the web methods environment. And to do this, I used Jenkins, Kate, Enterprise Edition, and Apache JMeter, Kate Meter. I'm not going to go fully into detail on it because we only have 5 minutes, but basically I just used Kate Meter to record. Then we used Apache JMeter or Kate Meter to actually analyze it, and Jenkins to implement it. And what is service virtualization test automation? That's probably a good question to answer. Service virtualization is a method of mocking components that are needed to test or develop a process. So if you have a process that you would like to test and you don't have all the pieces completed, you can use service virtualization to mock that part of the process. Okay, and the project process, we had a meeting with select team members where we discussed what actually we were doing with what we were virtualizing and what we were actually doing. And then we used Kate Meter. Well, not Kate Meter, we used the Kate Enterprise Edition to record and prepare for playback. And then we simulated the test in Kate Meter. That's when we went in and we actually used the Kate Meter to look at it and say, oh, okay, this is the pieces that need to be changed, and this is what we need to do. And on Jenkins, we would then add the parameters. That was the easy part. It was just adding the white space and giving the user somewhere to put their information, and then you run the test on Jenkins. Thank you. Are there any questions?
The security guy.
So can you give a couple examples of how you broke your fingers?
Yeah, okay, so one of them, I was roller skating. Another one, I slammed the door and I broke 2 fingers at once. Another one, I caught a football wrong. Another one, I was playing basketball.
Okay. Well, that's all the reasons to avoid exercise. Okay.
Does it interfere with typing?
I don't know. I mean, I had carpal tunnel like 2 years ago, so I guess maybe a little bit, but not really.
When are they going to roll out this service virtualization? I mean, I keep hearing about it, but what's the date? Do you have a date?
We don't have a date, but we are currently working on it as we speak. Like, we're trying to do it as fast as possible.
Another tough question from Joe.
You had mentioned this is your first internship, so based on what your expectations were coming in and where you're at now within your internship, where do you feel you're landing?
I honestly had no expectations when I first came in. I was just hoping to learn because like I had never even imagined just getting an internship going into my sophomore year because most places they only accept in juniors and seniors. So when I got an internship, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be something that I'm actually going to be doing things this summer. Like I'm not just going to be working in a movie theater. So I feel like it's more than what I expected it to be. Like I didn't expect to learn 4 new programs, and yeah, I'm really happy with where I'm at.
So since it was integration related, were there any security considerations that you had to take into consideration through the process that the team talked through or that you had to work through?
There was one concern about the bank account numbers when we were virtualizing, but we found a way to not have those be visible to people that were using the service virtualization.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When you deployed these, did you use containers?
I don't think so. I'm going to say no. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think we did.
Any other nerd questions?
So, these technologies were, question, new to you?
Yes.
How difficult was it to use those and learn them?
They were fairly easy. The only one that gave me slight problem was the one that had the most videos, which was Kate Meter. So on YouTube, there are tons of videos to look up how to do this, how to virtualize that. So you can literally just type in Kate Meter or J Meter on YouTube, and there'll be hours upon hours of videos on how to do it. And Jenkins didn't have as many videos, but it was a lot easier to use. So I learned it pretty quickly.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jamie Penzine. I work in ABO and Customer Solutions as a software developer. So I'm going to start by telling you all a little bit about myself. I go to Grand Valley State University, where I'm a senior majoring in computer science. In my free time, I like to show my dogs in AKC, play music, and read books. Now, up there are my 3 dogs, Dodge, Peppy, and Jam Jam. Peppy in the middle is mine. And you'll also notice I put up contact information up here. That's in case you want hundreds of pictures of my dogs. I'll send you an email and we'll get that straightened out. Lastly, I'm also a returning intern. Last summer I worked in IBS. However, this summer I am working on the customer care and D-care team. On this team, we are working on making an AI chatbot that ABOs and customers can use to answer their questions 24/7. Specifically on this team, my project has been archiving the conversations that occur between users and the bot. This has been the end-to-end process of defining what a conversation really means, determining what elements of that conversation we want to store, how we want to store that, and then beginning development on this solution. We utilize resources such as Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure to store this data in the cloud. We also worked with teams such as privacy and security to determine any risks associated with storing this data. Currently in this solution, we take conversational elements and then store them in the Microsoft Azure Event Hub. That is what I'm currently working on right now. Then a Lambda function will take those conversational elements, formulate them into a conversation, take that conversation, enrich it with metadata and ABO user data, and then it will take that enriched conversation and send it to an Amazon Kinesis stream, which it will be stored in temporarily, and then that Kinesis stream will push the enriched conversation to an Amazon S3 for permanent storage. Keeping the record of these conversations will allow us to improve the functionality between the bot and the user. The easier the bot is to interact with, the better the user experience will be, and the more satisfied ABOs will be. It will also allow us to correct any errors in the bot code. For example, should an error arise in a conversation, we can immediately find that conversation, trace back what happened, look at the conversation logic, and figure out and make sure that that logic never creates an error again. We'll also be able to protect ourselves in case a legal situation should ever arise in one of our conversations. All of these benefits provide business value to the bot. However, it leaves us asking what other benefits could be provided in the future. And specifically, for what I'm working on, we know that analytics could be performed on the data in the future. Analytics that figure out what the ABOs and users are asking about, what they need to know more about, which could provide valuable information to marketing and forecasting for other teams. In addition, I am also working on writing automated test cases to test the integration endpoints of the bot. This has value in saving time and money by preventing manually checking each of these integration endpoints. It also provides clarity to the developers to be able to almost instantly know which integrations are failing. And lastly, it aligns with the enterprise IT strategy of automating a process and eliminating that extra work that we had to do and digitally transforming what we do. My summer and internship as a whole has been great, and I feel it greatly aligns with the Amway Next strategy we have here. For example, on the technical side of things, the work I've done in my project not only digitally transforms the work we do on my team, but the work other teams will do too. And I'm adding contributions to this project that I know will be working on a product that is digitally transformational in and of itself. In a business sense, I had the chance to work in a lean and agile IT team, which allowed me to use things such as Jira, Confluence, and a Kanban board. I also worked cross-functionally and communicated cross-functionally to develop the current solution we have. Lastly, I also had the chance to develop some of my personal skills, especially technical and gaining some confidence in the workplace, which was great. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Hi, Jamie. This is Mike. You mentioned that some of the conversation was not kept and some was kept for later. So how did you determine which conversations were, part of the conversations were kept?
So a lot of it has to do with the different use cases we have for conversations. So coming into releasing a chatbot, I know as a millennial, I like to test things like that, and I like to see if I can break it. And we're curious to see what ABOs will do and could potentially break it. For example, they might just say, hey, how's it going? Like, how's the weather? And that's not necessarily something we need to store as vital information for determining what they're asking about. Or they could even say, like, what functionalities do you provide? And that's not necessarily something we're interested in storing. We're more so looking at things that will give us more data to look at in the future. So it's basically looking at what types of conversations we want to store and determining the type of conversation.
This is totally not a technical question. Did you guys, are there any ideas on what Amway should name the bot?
Okay, so this is not my idea, but I really like it. They came up with the idea of ADA, which is Amway Digital Assistant. Yeah, and I really like that. I think that should be what they name it.
Thank you.
Go easy, Joe.
So on this chatbot, to Mike's question, is the user aware that you're capturing that information?
We will make that aware, because there are legal issues surrounding stuff like that, so yes.
So as you analyzed a lot of the chats, did you see any recurring themes of things that kept coming in?
Well, this isn't technically released yet, so the only conversations that occur are the people on our team asking the bot questions. So we don't know of anything reoccurring right now. So we've just gone with typical examples, like we know they might ask for their PVBV, when the next event near them is. So we're doing things like that right now, as it hasn't been released yet.
Do you know if there's a plan once it does get released that there will be some analytics around that and the questions will go to those teams that can address them?
Can you say that again? Sorry, it's a little quiet.
No, just are there any plans for once it does go live that you're aware of that there'll be some analytics around these questions that are coming in?
There's hope that that will be done, but that's further down the road. Right now, we're still in the initial stages. We're just concerned about getting it out there, storing the conversations for right now, and analytics will be something we worry about way down the road.
Hi, Jamie. Great presentation. Any language complexities that you came across?
Well, I mean, I didn't know C# at all, so that was kind of complex, but I mean, it's just the standard coursework of working with something you don't know, and of course that's always tough, and it's always a challenge, but it's something that's invigorating and exciting, and it's always something that makes you eager to wake up working with something you don't know. So yes, there were challenges, but they weren't defeating challenges.
What about complexities in foreign language with how the
that
text
language.
would
Oh,
sort?
all right. Yeah, so what we work with is there's something called LUIS, L-U-I-S, and that works with translating languages, but that comes with a base set of languages. It doesn't incorporate every language per se. So right now we're going with the languages that LUIS provides and allows translations for, and in the future we'll worry about conversations that are not supported.
So good afternoon. We are the Atlas Interns. So Atlas is a larger project within Amway, and we were all able to work on different teams within that project. So today we'll give it a little introduction to ourselves, and then we'll talk about the group project we worked on, and then a little bit about our individual pieces.
Hi, I'm Vicky Rosales, and I'm the Project Management Office intern working with Amy Widlitz. I'm a rising second-year student at Purdue University, majoring in industrial engineering and minoring in entrepreneurship. My role within the group project is process improvement.
Hi, my name is Ben Wieringa. I spent my time on the R2R, the Record to Report team, working under Jay Manoj and Avinash. For the group project, I was the quality analyst. I am going to be a junior this year at Central Michigan, and my major is information systems.
Hi, I'm Presley Keeney. I also go to Central Michigan University. I'm a senior graduating in May of next year. I'm a double major in accounting and information systems. I'm working on the distributor experience team under Mike Barnes and Sandeep Irsani, and my role on the group project was focusing on dashboards and metrics.
Good morning, I'm Connor Babin. I work on the Crosstracks Run team in Atlas under Mika Banda and Matt Behrens. I go to the University of South Carolina, and I am a junior studying computer science.
And I'm Rosa Fleming. I go to Grand Valley State University, and I will be graduating this December with my degree in computer science and biomedical sciences and a minor in business. I worked on the solution development team, and for the group project, I was the project manager. So first we'll talk a little bit about the group project that we worked on together. So our main focus for this was researching and implementing the feasibility of the migration of change requests from Jira over to ServiceNow. So we started by field mapping out what Jira currently had and what we needed from that. And then we began looking at what ServiceNow has and to offer to see if it has any future benefits. And we decided it did and that we could really use it for our approval processes. So we went ahead and started implementing that and documenting how Atlas itself could push that into production.
So for this project, we decided to attack it with an agile methodology. So first of all, we met with key stakeholders to continuously improve our template and make sure we were always in line with their scope and what their requirements were. Then we would take our big tasks and split them up into smaller tasks and decide which area did we really excel at or found interesting, and then we would each decide as a group. We would have a daily stand-up meeting, so we would all get together and talk about what we've been working on and making sure everyone in the project knew what was going on in every other aspect if someone was gone, or just to make sure we had a full view of the project. Then we used some lean tools such as swim lanes, which Connor did to help break down the process flow and make sure we had a good understanding of that. For this project, it was a little bit shorter, so we decided to work in week-long sprints, which we found were very helpful. And at the end of each week, we decided what went well, which areas we really enjoyed, which areas we didn't, and then planned our next week accordingly.
So as the first step in the implementation process, we worked with the ServiceNow team to create a template on ServiceNow named Oracle EBS Request for Change, as you can see on the screen. So we simplified the front-end process for the business user by eliminating fields that were not necessary. So we met with key stakeholders and we analyzed which fields were not necessary to be put on the template, and that way it would be faster for the business user to get through it and submit it. Through this process, we also continually improved this template every week on our sprints while we regularly met with these stakeholders so that everything they wanted it to have was there. And then finally, we equipped the future team to migrate this template into production.
To shorten the approval time frame, we decided to improve the workflow. And initially, we realized that there was a redundancy in the approval process post-estimation. So to eliminate handoffs and lead time, we consolidated the approvals into one large approval where the approvers would get together and talk every week to decide whether or not they would make the approval go through. We also noticed bottlenecks in the estimation process. So we moved away from a very specific estimation to the size of the project based on hours to a larger range in a Rome idea where we would just decide whether it was a small, medium, large, or extra large project. From here, it allowed us to expedite the process and shift our backlog dramatically.
So ServiceNow is a very good tool for visual metrics and dashboards that can be tailored to the user's needs. So two people that work in a company that have different roles are going to want to see different performance analytics. So dashboards allow them to do that. So a director could go in and make a dashboard that is an overview for everything they want to see in the department, while a value stream manager could go in and make a dashboard that's specific to the track that they want to see. Along with that, you can also make dashboards that just focus on like a specific request, or a dashboard that has all the demand on there, so like incidents, problem tickets, and requests. An overview, so we worked really hard on this project, and so in the end, we unified the way Atlas views all their demand, which will allow the business users and the IT employees to save time and ease the communication process. Moving forward, after our internships are done with all that we have completed and documented and researched, the Atlas team can move on with the implementation process and move this into production. And so that was our group projects. Now we're going to move on to our individual projects that we've all been working on really hard. So we're going to highlight some of those key aspects.
Specifically for the XDR team this summer, I developed and updated dashboards. We use these dashboards to more efficiently view and download information and to see patterns so we can more appropriately delegate my team's work. I learned JavaScript, SQL, and HTML to create these dashboards so that we can display continuously updating information on the team's daily task on our television at our tables.
So as the PMO intern this summer, I worked on revamping the Atlas onboarding process. So on average, there are around 101 contractors and 3 employees coming into the project every year. And so it takes around 3 hours to give this high-level overview of Atlas to each one of these people. So we are using around 312 hours yearly on this, when it could be used, spent time on the actual Atlas project. And therefore, what I did was I met with key stakeholders and managers and consolidated all the information into one single place. And after I did that, I created an automated deliverable that lasts around 20 minutes, which everyone can access now. So I brought new Atlas employees and contractors on standard and efficient high-level onboarding training that will save resources time.
So this summer I spent my time working on the integration between our 2 major systems, EBS and JDE, which are among the 2 biggest enterprise software systems. So we have both. We didn't want one, we needed both. The way Amway's set up doesn't really allow us to operate on one system with just the way it's broken down as a company. So I like to compare it to having a Samsung phone and an Apple phone. Both are great phones, both are great at different things, but you have a problem when you try to get them connected and integrated together. So there's 3 main steps that can go wrong. The integration itself, either one of the systems being down for maintenance, upgrades, anything like that, the integration will fail. An incident is raised, which can take anywhere from 4 hours to 2 days to resolve. Third place is the confirmation. Once the origin system sends it to the other system, it needs to send back a confirmation for our part, the record to report, of zeroing out in the origin system. We don't want to be paying 2 invoices. I don't like paying twice. I'm sure Amway doesn't like paying twice. So this is a very crucial part. So if any of those goes wrong, again, we have an incident, 4 hours to 2 days. It's a pretty big range. My idea was to come up with a workaround, a kind of a fire extinguisher in the room. So when we come to month-end close, we don't want to be raised if it's really tight and we don't have time to wait for that 4 hours to 2 days. You can download from one system, upload in the other, make a note in this in a SharePoint so we're still following GAP policies of keeping a record of who's touching these reports, and then go back in and zero out. This should take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour compared to the 4 hours to 2 days. This allows them to get through and work around this problem and not rely on Atlas for the moment. We will go back after the month-end close and take care of that incident because those incidents should be taken care of and we should come up with solutions. This is not a movement of let's get rid of the integration because that is not feasible. It's not possible. The integration works well. We had users come in and they gave me a 6 out of 10. From 1 to 10, they gave us a level of 6. That's good. We should be proud of that, but we can get that to an 8. If we have a good workaround for them, the ability for them to take power into their own hands and put out that fire in the room until they get past the month-end close, and then we can come in and help them out.
My project on the DE team was to introduce new capabilities to give the user the ability to run accounts receivable end-of-day request sets in Oracle. And what a request set does is it allows the user to submit the same set of reports frequently with a single transaction. And the value this has is it saves the employees time so one person doesn't have to sit there and wait for one report to end to start the next, and also decreases user errors because a lot of the parameters are now defaulted in. And currently I have 15 countries already done in production and plan to have 25 countries completed by the time the summer is done.
So for solution development, I worked with the Oracle databases. So coming in, I learned SQL, PL SQL, and XML, and then started to learn more about the structure and the component and design behind the databases. I use that to start working on defect resolutions. So an end user asks for data to be pulled from a database and they receive a report. Once they get their report, they might find that they need new things added to it or they want to modify it in some way. It's not showing what they need. So then it was sent back to me where my job was to actually make the modifications and the changes that they asked for to send it back out to them. Moving forward, I'm trying to more enhance my knowledge of the databases to work with performance improvements. So I'm going to be analyzing performance issues for a notification of installment charge program. So this is a program that's run on a daily basis, but on the 10th of every month, it's running significantly longer than the rest of the days. So I'm going to be looking at what tables are being used, what data is being extracted, and overall what's happening on the business that day that's causing it to run for so much longer. And then also I found that there was not a lot of documentation for what I was specifically doing. So I pulled together everything that I had learned and created a video tutorial so that if someone coming in needed to also make these same reports, they could just watch a quick video instead of having to go from person to person to gather the information they need. So overall, we had a really great experience. We had a unique opportunity to work on a group project together. It was a very cross-functional team. And then we were also able to really work on our specific functions within Atlas, and it was really great. So any questions?
Rosa, what kind of security password did Joe put in place to get into the building each morning?
Yes, I did not. He did not have.
You're kidding me.
I know. I was surprised he's so concerned right now.
So with your group project, Jira to ServiceNow, when is a target date for production?
So we fully have to decide on the final way this is going to look. We're finalizing our workflow right now, and we're hoping to give them the change management plan right when we're about 2 weeks here, or we're finalizing it tomorrow, and then we have our final presentation Tuesday. So if everything goes smoothly as we hope, hopefully we can start getting the final date out there and start moving towards that. Everything goes smoothly. Well, we hope so.
Very good job today.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask, is there anything that you would offer as suggestions to improve the intern program?
I think we were kind of in a unique situation being over in Spalding. So just from our perspective, I know we had a lot of help from our mentors and advisors, kind of helping us reach out to other departments. I think sometimes Spalding just feels a little disconnected from the rest of headquarters. But yeah, we had a lot of help kind of reaching out to there. But I think that was one disadvantage that we maybe had being in Atlas.
So something different this year was that we, as a whole, didn't do group projects, and I know that you guys did a group project and individual project. How'd you say keeping the amount of work level or being able to keep up with your individual project? How was that for you guys?
I think that's where Rosa did a really good job, where she would kind of come up to us each week when we were planning our sprint and say, hey, what do you have on your plate? So we could really say, like, I am really focusing on my individual project this week, so I'm going to have to take a step back from the group project. But the work was really broken down to be quite simple and just getting your tasks done and moving forward. I found the group project probably being the best. I'm not saying it's better than my individual, but it gave you a better view or a more realistic view of how a project is done in an organization. I mean, you have this view if you are learning project manager or learning projects, and you think everything just runs so smoothly and there's open communication and you have your scope and that's set and then you go get it. And it's not like that all the time. And you have people push back on your scope and you have scope creep and you have all these different things that come up. And the group project did really helped us get a full view of how an organization works and how hard it can be to push a project along.
So as it says in the slide, I am Jason Klassen. I'll be a junior at Calvin College, and I'm with the IT Forecasting Agile group. So our group is dedicated to forecasting to build them the forecasting tools that they need. Now at Calvin College, I am studying computer science to be a software developer. So these are all of the technologies I need to learn in order to do the project correctly. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of them. The main one being Angular, and another big one being Okta. Now, Angular is a website framework that uses TypeScript and HTML, and Okta is a new security at Amway, a new security system that we use to secure applications. And then the next biggest thing is .NET Core, which is the back end that controls everything. So the biggest problem I had running into this project was just learning all of these things, and that spent me a good week and a half to do. But I learned everything and then started the project, so it was really nice. So my initial task at the beginning of my internship was upgrading this website called Interactive Reports. It's a repository for all the report building tools that they have. And I was also supposed to use and document mastering Okta this security system. Now the goals was to reduce technical debt and then reduce future development time of my team and also provide a better user experience for this website. So yeah, also one of the main goals of this project was to help my team out in their next project they're making called Promotions. They need to use this framework that I am, but they have not used it before, and it's just really nice to have an extra source so that they can hit the ground running when they start this project. It's also to reduce technical debt so that we have just less clutter around. So the business solution is that the security needs updating on the website and that the site design needs improvement to have better user experience with everyone that uses this website, and that there is little documentation for the security that we now have. In order to figure out how it worked, I needed to talk to several different people, and it just was a very ineffective way of learning how to use the API. So I'm updating to mastering Okta, documenting everything I've learned that's specific to Amway's structure of how the security is set up, and also using Angular to make the new website that has a better user experience that is easier for people to use. So here is the current website that is in production, and as you can see, it's a little bit of an older design, and it's not as intuitive of how to get to a certain place. And here is the new upgraded design. Now it's easier to find the reports you need because they're right in the side drop down, whereas in the previous slide, in the previous website, you need to click on reports and go to a separate drop down, and there's also just clutter on the top, and it's just a little cleaner here. All right, so is there any questions about this? I'd like to have more time for questions just because I know a lot of things, but I don't know what you want from this.
Hey, Jason, you had a lot of technologies to learn.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you picked up on the technologies and learned what you needed to learn to do what you did?
All right. Yeah, so these are all the technologies. Yeah, so when about like the third day I was here, I got signed up for Pluralsight and started tutorials on how to use Angular and how to set that up with .NET Core backend and just how APIs work and connecting the two. And yeah, it was just really interesting because I had never done any kind of website creation before. I'd never learned that in school. So I was just out in the deep end of the pool trying to flounder around. But eventually, with a lot of help from my team, I figured it all out, and I just got into a nice groove of working on a problem, finishing the problem, and then learning about the next thing I need to do, and just getting that nice cycle of work and learn, and then work some more, then learn some more. And it was just a really nice way to go about the project as an intern.
I have a question. Were you trying to flounder, or were you trying to swim?
I was trying to swim, but actually floundering. Not yet, no. But I still have about 2.5 weeks left for my internship, so I think that is possible to do.
Okay, all right. So my name is Jarrell Singleton Cochran. I'm going to my 4th year into Michigan State University. I'm studying computer science, and I now have a minor in IT. In this upcoming academic year, I'll be NSBE's chapter treasurer at MSU. So that's National Society of Black Engineers. So this summer I worked in the IBS production support under Tom Maher over there and worked closely with Rich Cameron. So my lasting project here for Amway would be ServiceNow's incident categorization. That's what I want to call it. So a bunch of our tickets that come in through ServiceNow are pretty much based in 3 different applications. We service the hundreds of applications that we actually use here at Amway, but Team Center, PLM, Red Prairie, and JDE are major tickets that our team gets. So we want to know why we get so many tickets. Amway collectively gets 14,000 tickets on average each month. So my first step while trying to figure this out is, why are these 3 getting so many? Is it bad data? Is it a bug in the system, or is it just one-off, like a one-off system thing that we might just have to fix? So that's just one of my projects that I went through. While going through the incident categorization, I worked closely with the ACS team for ServiceNow that Tom also leads. I talked to Mary mostly. She leads the global ownership, not leads, she's on the global ownership for ServiceNow. So if anybody needed something added into ServiceNow, she's the one to talk to. I talked to her to try to get these categories into ServiceNow. It appeared like it'd be a simple fix. Just I was able to get the, I guess, the categories done within 2 weeks. But with ServiceNow being an agile team, it would be going through the backlog pretty often. It's in the backlog now. It should be in before my internship is over, and I'll be able to complete my project with reports that the Atlas team already showed you guys with the dashboards. Currently, like I said, it's already in development, and the other 2 projects that I've been working on, it's really my day-to-day basics. I would be working with incident resolution, so any problems that may come up, any incidents, tickets, I'd be working on that. One big one was there was a problem with the EC transfer, so the Employee Central Transfer. There's a job EI008 that runs daily to, I guess, upload any changes in OCD, Employee Central, ODS databases. And I don't know why, but photos and the updates, they weren't actually going through. So me and Rich, we spent about 2 or 3 weeks trying to figure out what this issue was, and then we actually came up with another issue that we found, that the authentication for the job, it was going to end soon. So along with the help with Tim LaForge, we were able to get that onto a common account so that job can run without it failing through authentication anymore. Through our 3-week, I guess, research, we were able to find the issue with the job. We were able to patch it through. And then there is one issue that may still come up. Retake photos, they may still have a problem with updating. I'm not too sure why that's still happening, but we're able to fix that as simply as possible. Like I said, it was a pretty interesting job. I was kind of excited coming through because I work at an HR kind of job already back at MSU. So being able to work with HR-related databases, it was nice going through with that. Another job that I helped fix was Johnson & Johnson ASN failure. So with those ASNs, they're advanced shipment notices. For each ASN that would be failing, Amway would be fined for, I guess, those things not going through J&J. So to fix this problem, me and Rich, we worked with the web methods team, Varun. He was able to add in what is the word I'm looking for? An integration between JDE, Red Prairie, and J&J's supply chain, their offices. The problem with that, it took them maybe 2 weeks to get everything approved, and during those 2 weeks, I would have to go into each ASN, going through their XML file, change maybe 2 letters in each line. So maybe some shipments had 20 lines. I'd go into the XML, each line, change something from it being blank or changing a prefix that was in a lot number. I think that was one of my most challenging ones, trying to get the integration set. But for sure, the EC transfer was one of my most lasting and one of my favorite projects. And for opportunities for Amway and production support, we recently just added in service level expectations and agreement. I feel like that might be really helpful for our team. It'll provide quicker resolutions to these problems. I'd say we get maybe 20 on average each day. So trying to get those resolved as quickly as possible so that they don't affect any other problems like in project life cycle management or any supply chain issues. And I feel like IT has a bunch of documentation services. We have Jira. I didn't even know about Jira until just today after all the interns were talking about it. Remedy, which is what we used before ServiceNow, the IT registry, and Confluence. There's so many things that we have to store our knowledge. The production support team, we even have a OneNote with all of our collective knowledges. I feel like we need to sort of consolidate that into one. I'm hoping it can be ServiceNow. I like the scheme of ServiceNow. We have a bunch of knowledge documents in ServiceNow, and I feel like it could provide the service that we want for Amway. And thanks for listening. And do you guys have any questions?
Very good. Carrie Lucas, I had this question before, and for you also. What would you take back to your college, university as a suggestion to help their curriculum in what you've learned being an intern?
I feel like I haven't taken any classes that kind of taught the agile work method. I feel like I want to take the agile work method back to my job. We don't normally do that. We kind of work in a way in between waterfall and agile, but I want to make sure that it's a more agile work method because we deal with so many different databases, trying to add features into it or anything like that. I feel this lean and agile work method could benefit us pretty well.
So you spoke about 2 problems that you solved. What was your biggest challenge as you were solving them? And what did you learn from that?
So the EC transfer one, that one was a lot. There was a bunch of going through different knowledge, I can't talk right now. Knowledge documents, like I went through the Visio stuff to try to figure out the EI-008 job specifications, the knowledge documents that we have in our OneNote, and knowledge documents that I found in ServiceNow. Trying to consolidate all that data and information was the most challenging part, but after those 3 weeks of learning, I'm pretty much a master of the HR databases. Not really though, I'm still learning it. But I feel like the OCD, ODS, ID Vault, all those things, they come along pretty well with that job, but it can always be optimized.
Hi, we're the Magic Interns. I'm Danielle Parisian.
Hello? Okay. All right. All right. We're off to a great start, everyone. So, all right. As I was saying, my name's Jake Scott. We're the Magic Interns this year. I'm on the bonus calc team.
And I'm on the Magic Platform team. So a little bit about ourselves. I am a sophomore, or was a sophomore at Grand Valley State. I'm an information systems major with a business minor. I recently picked the software development route, so I'll be continuing that on for the next 2 years. A little about myself is I love to travel. Not many know that. Also, I grew up on a farm. A lot of people come up to me and talked about that because I could get in a heated argument about it. Between farms and ranches, there is a difference. I do have a southern accent that I can turn on and off, and I call it sloppy southern because my parental units are the only one that can understand me. Also, I am the president of a volunteer club at GVSU. We're called Road Rack, and I've been the president for 3 years now.
I go to Penn State University, the Erie campus. I'll be graduating next spring as part of the class of 2019. I'm getting a bachelor's of computer science with a minor in management information systems. And some of my interests are sort of stocks and finance, gaming, and just generally technology.
So my project was Docker. Basically, Docker is containerizing information and data and so on. My initial process was to learn it, teach it, deploy as many things as I can. And from doing the process of learning through my research and so on, I noticed that also that other companies were using it in specific ways, and we were using it differently. And I also noticed that our company does not monitor our Docker containers. Containers are going to save us money, time, storage. Also, Docker is free. I want to emphasize free. It is closer to our ABOs, IBOs, and so on. It's automatic. There's features of Docker like Docker Swarm, which when you have one server go down, automatically it would be picked back up and put on by itself. You don't need anyone to do it, anyone to come in, so that saves time and money also. We are implementing for the cloud and AWS, which is the next movement, I think, for Amway. Also, monitoring programs which are specified for Docker. And part of my research, I noticed that there are, like I said, monitoring programs specified for Docker. And I looked through, let's say, 12 of them. And I looked at pros and cons of each of them before I even told anyone which ones I would like. I narrowed it down to 8. Then from those 8, I picked 2. I picked cAdvisor and Grafana. I picked cAdvisor that could be specified for maybe a couple of servers, not an entire server. What it's known for really is for like in-time movement. So if you want to see it move in real time, you can just have it up, so it goes by. CPU, memory, all of this information stored on screen. Grafana is the same way, but Grafana you can make dashboards that specify your needs. I suggest that for Docker Swarm. And also, Grafana is pretty, and from a girl's point of view, I like color coding things, so you can color code the heck out of Grafana. Also, both of these are free, and unless you have more servers than you need, that's when you can pay for extra for the features, but still, it's still free for Amway.
So my main project this summer was to work on a proof of concept to demonstrate whether or not we can convert the Magic reporting framework from Oracle BI Publisher to Jasper Reports Server. So one of the big things about Oracle BI Publisher is Oracle software is expensive. So it can also be challenging to do upgrades and ongoing support on some of those systems, especially with customizations we've made and things over the years. So one of the big advantages to converting to Jasper Reports is the reduction in cost for both ongoing support as well as the actual purchase of the software itself, because Jasper is an open source solution and it's very flexible and modern in its design. So it's a lot more expandable than BI Publisher is, because it's more of an open ecosystem. It also comes with some useful utilities, including a report creation studio, which is something that BI Publisher doesn't have, whereas before we had to create all of our report templates in Microsoft Word and an RTF file. This will allow us to create JRXML files, which is Jasper's custom format, within their actual studio as a drag and drop style editor with some nice UI elements to help walk you through the report creation process. So, and then in addition to that, towards the end of my internship here, I've been working with Danielle to sort of migrate the knowledge that I've gained over the course of the summer over to her, as well as others on the Magic team, so that they can sort of continue this work after I've left. Because I'm actually only going to be here about another week and a half, so I want to make sure that the knowledge doesn't leave with me.
So like Jake was saying, he is leaving earlier, and I'm going to be taking over his project. Since he's leaving, and I just finished Docker not so long ago, we wanted to make a timeline before we even started. So it goes by the 5 weeks that when we started, we want to have the learning process, get the permissions, because it does take a while to get permissions to Oracle and so on. And the second week was learning a little bit SQL training. And then once he leaves in week 4, I want to get down and dirty with the reports. Start converting them and get going and start to finish before I leave. So from overall our project learnings, we learned a little bit about Docker Swarm, monitoring programs for Docker, trying to implement it in the team as well so that they're aware of what I researched. We had a couple problems with me personally were the servers. I accidentally killed all my servers, which was a bummer because all the plugins that I had in my servers were gone. And the week after was my demo. So I was cranking out doing new plugins and I found more information. So I guess it was a good thing that it happened. And also what we are trying to implement at Amway for Docker is how if you do have a server breakdown, how it automatically goes to the next. And I had proof that it did that for my monitoring programs. So it kind of all worked out in the end, so I can say that and I could be a witness for it. So that was a good aspect of the challenge.
And then for me, my main things that I learned this summer were primarily professional Java development. Coming in, I had very little experience with Java itself. I did have a little bit, but overall this summer, this experience has helped me learn Java sort of on a broader context and how it's used more within Magic and within Amway. As a business. And then also how BI Publisher and Jasper Reports work and how they differ as solutions and the aspects of each that are good and not as good as the others. And then for me, my primary problem that I actually ran into was the templates. As I mentioned before, the templates are significantly different from what BI Publisher used to use. So whenever I went through that process of doing that, the template conversion, there were some things that didn't quite translate well. So you have to kind of adapt and work within what the new solution provides. So that was something that I really had to work on and sort of trying to get the same style and the same information that was available to us in BI Publisher available within Jasper Reports. And once I completed that, and once I managed to do that, that increased my knowledge of Jaspersoft Studio, which is the software that helps you create those templates. And overall, I think will make the process of converting those templates in the future a lot better for everyone involved, because I'll be able to share that experience that I gained. And then also, just in general, the reporting code within Magic is quite complex. Each report has a lot of code behind it. So for me specifically, I was working on one report as a proof of concept, but just understanding how all of those different pieces interconnect and interact with one another to create a report and to work within the Magic software was another big challenge for me. So, and then I just wanted to share we talked about what could be a major opportunity for the IT intern program. And I think that we both agree that something that could be good for the program moving forward is an increase in sort of cross intern collaboration within the IT group. Me personally, I was here in 2016, so I got to experience the IT intern group projects that we did at that time. I found that to be a very valuable experience, and I definitely think that bringing something similar or that program back could potentially be a good experience for future interns.
Before we end our presentation, we wanted to take a moment and share with you guys what are our moves, our next couple short-term goals, I guess you could say. So for me, it would be finish my next 2 years of college. I'd like to finish my minor as well at Grand Valley State. Also, career-wise, I would love to come back. I still have one more summer for an internship. Would love that, and excited to learn many new technologies. In this internship, I was given the opportunity to not touch one thing, but multiple. And I'm very grateful for that, and I love that the aspect that Amway's allowed me to make relationships with not just IT interns, but all the interns, and on my little platform became really close with my upline, who were like twins. So that was a blessing in disguise, and that's just my goals for right now.
So for me, it's actually relatively similar, though I'm actually going into my senior year, so I'll be graduating in May. And because of that, I'll actually be I'm starting to think about after college, full-time employment, leaving after graduation. And after having spent 2 summers here at Amway, I have to say I really like the culture here. I think it's a great company, and I'm definitely interested in potentially starting my career here. So, and with that, are there any questions?
My name is Steve Cole. I'm with Cloud Design and Architecture. And my question is for Danielle. It's actually a multi-part question. First thing is, I think it's great that you had an opportunity to work with Docker. That's something that we're putting a lot of work into in infrastructure as well to try and help Amway advance our usage and our experience and maturity in that space. And so my first question to you is, do you have any insights into maybe how Amway might be able to do that as an enterprise? You know, maybe from your role and opportunity to work with Docker, are there things that you experienced or saw that you thought would be valuable if Amway spent more time, you know, in this area or this aspect around Docker? And the second part is, can you answer part of that question in sloppy Southern? Because I've never heard sloppy Southern.
I don't think you want to hear it.
I do.
A couple of the IT interns back there have heard it, and they're just laughing.
It's an optional question. You can choose to not answer the question. And the third part is, can you think of any way that Docker could be used on a farm? Okay.
Docker on a farm, I would say, because I can immediately answer that. Sprinklers? I don't necessarily know. You can probably containerize that.
For crops.
But for saving your guys' hearing, I'm not going to use Southern for this. But what I've noticed throughout the IT platform is every division is different in what they use. Like I recently went to a stand-up and talked about what they're doing. They're using Kubernetes, which is kind of not a competitor of Docker, but they're in the same kind of family that go off and on of each other. And what I think is everyone should use Docker, because not just because it's my project, but it's easier to train and learn, because it took me 4 or 5 weeks to get a full understanding. Like I couldn't be certified in it, but I could be able to teach you how to do it. And Kubernetes, which is another one that other people are using, it takes a lot of training and it costs more. So I think that if it was all of the division IT and maybe even Amway itself could start using Docker, it would be more efficient.
I have a team member who actually completely agrees with you.
Okay, that's
on your
good.
answer. So, but thank you.
Yep.
Hi, so I'm Nicholas MacDonald. I'm a returning intern this year. I'm a development intern on the Fusion team, working in internal business solutions. I go to Michigan State University studying computer science, and I'll be graduating in about a year. So my main project was working with the Fusion pricing and portfolio, recently known as Global Pricing Solution. That's a whole big thing, not gonna get into that. But so I worked with the transfer pricing pool data and calculations. So basically what I worked on was I was documenting how transfer pricing pulled its data and how it ended up using that data for its calculations, and then I was developing AWS Lambda functions for those actual calculations. So what my deliverables were was Visio workflow documents for the pull data from sources and the calculations, and then using those AWS Lambda functions to emulate those actual calculations. So the focus was to provide like a usable documentation and examples of how AWS would be functioning inside of our ecosystem. And then the business solution for this would be to help the business team kind of understand how Appraise actually like works and how Fusion will be working in the future. So some of the project learnings I had, so I had kind of 3 separate projects that I'd like to focus on. So the pull data from sources, I really got to learn actually how a legacy system was like created and designed, which helped me understand and work with the business team to answer some of the questions they had when it didn't work correctly. And so then what I was providing for them was I was providing documentation of how that system actually works to help them understand and to help possible future developers understand how Appraise works for when they're replacing it. So a good thing about this project was that I actually got to learn how to make workflow diagrams for some software. And the bad was that the amount of work for this part of the project was definitely underestimated by both myself and my team. So then the second project was the calculations for the transfer pricing. So in that one, I've gotten to learn how to work with AWS Lambda functions, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool new technology. You should all check it out. And then, so what I was providing there was I was providing an example of how those Lambdas will actually be able to be worked into Fusion for cutting the costs on how it will work. And so the good for that is I got to learn a new skill, a pretty cool technology. The bad, once again, it was definitely an underestimated the amount of time it was going to take. And then the third was the Intern Innovation Challenge. So as many have mentioned, we didn't do a intern group project this year for IT, but we did do this Innovation Challenge, which was focusing more on, it focused on an IT aspect. So we ended up working to redesign the ABO app, and we used our team used a user experience focused design to create an application that was more user-friendly and desirable for the ABOs. So the good was that we won the popular vote, and then we got to actually have a lunch meeting with Michael Nelson and talk with him about his experiences at Amway. The bad was that we did not do it in the amount of time we were supposed to. And so a lot of people have focused on like the opportunities for Amway. I'd like to kind of go the opposite directions and talk about what I think Amway has done better than I've seen other companies do. So I think one of the largest things that Amway has done is the culture. And the culture at Amway is entirely different than anywhere I've ever been. I mean, obviously the people are nice and really down to earth, and I felt more welcome here than I've ever felt somewhere else. And then agile. I've done some waterfall projects myself, and I think for my specific project, if I didn't have that agile like workflow and methodology, I would have had more trouble staying on task and being able to get in contact with the people that I needed to get in contact with. And then the opportunities that Amway offers. So I mean, I know plenty of people here who they either started in IT or they started somewhere else and they've ended up in IT or they end up somewhere else. And I've never heard of a company that's so open to allowing people to explore areas they're interested in that they're not technically trained in. So that's something that I find really cool about Amway. And so, any questions?
Two questions. One is, so you mentioned Lambda, so I don't know what that is, but it's obviously a AWS service. Was that already chosen and you just, were given that as like learn that and apply that to the project? That's one part. And then just the whole AWS ecosystem, right? When we're looking at, and we are looking at developing many of our platforms and applications in AWS, did you find that the services and just the depth of what you can do out there, how did you navigate that?
So to answer the first question, well, we work with Chad Fouts, and I'm pretty sure he's kind of the person who helped us decide on to use the Lambda functions. He knows a lot more about it than most of our team does. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of functionality within AWS. It's really daunting at first. I mean, that's what I did for my first week and a half, was just go through and do a ton of training on AWS. And as mentioned before, the documentation is not the best. It's really high level and you have to go searching for it. So it could be improved in that way. And I think Amway is someone who really, when we're focusing on it, I think we need the kind of collaboration to help understand the breadth of knowledge that it comes with.
Okay, hello. Is this on? Okay. So first of all, I want to thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to come. And I know we really appreciate it and are having fun too. So with that, my name is Ria Paro-Karin. I was an intern in the Internal Business Solutions, and I was on the Product Lifecycle Management team. So a little bit about myself. Okay. So I'm going into my second year at the University of Michigan. I am pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Information there. I am involved in a couple clubs and groups there, such as the Barger Leadership Institute, and I'm a captain of one of the competitive Bollywood dance teams on campus as well. There's a picture of my family. My dad works at Amway as well as my brother, so the running joke is that we're taking over Amway. So just got to convince my mom now. But yeah, that's a picture of us in India. So we get to travel a lot, and that's been one of my favorite hobbies. So what is Product Lifecycle Management? It is a single user interface with 3 different applications. So Interspec and Team Center hold the majority of the information of the finished products, the information that they have, and TCRA is a reporting tool of the information stored in those 2 applications. So it acts as a single global source of truth and ultimately results in a quicker response in the supply chain and fewer errors in quality of data. So I specifically worked on Interspec and Team Center, the 2 applications with the finished product information, and I worked to sync the suppliers and manufacturers between the 2. So I created an automated process that was given to our systems analyst and provided the work and information that she needed. So I started with SQL, and I used SQL statements to extract the data that I needed, and then used Informatica to compare the data and create a report that was easy to understand and work with. And then along with that, I integrated the Agile methodology into my work. I used Jira to create sprints and deliver something every week. So ultimately, this led to efficiency for the business. It saved time and money, and also it maintained that data integrity of PLM. So in terms of opportunities, I think Amway is already working on a lot of the things that I found that could be better. So my first one was automation increases efficiency. So right now there's a lot of little manual processes that are going on, like with my project. And I think really turning to automation to save that time and save the resources that we have is super important. Along with that, organizational change management has been huge. I think really getting the users on the same side as those working on PLM is super important for this product to be successful. And then lastly, continuing to integrate the Agile methodology. I think everyone knows that people are using it at different speeds right now, but just continuing to be conscientious of that and making sure that we're working towards one goal. And then this internship has been amazing for me. I have learned a lot of technical skills such as SQL and Informatica, but along with that I learned a lot about communication and interacting with people. I've become way more open and have a curiosity to continue to learn. So I don't think any college or classroom can teach me those kind of skills. So that is it. If there's any questions.
Rhea, thank you. Very good job.
Thank you.
Now, SQL, you had never had any training in that.
Yeah.
How did you like it?
I liked it a lot. I was able to take a one-day class through New Horizons, and I did a training, a beginner level training, and it really helped me understand the code that was already provided, and then manipulate the data as I went. So it was really good. I think SQL is a fairly easier language to learn just because of the commands that they use. So, yeah.
You mentioned you used Informatica. What were some of the, did you have any data quality concerns or checks that you had to put in place?
Yeah, so what we're doing is using Informatica to send out a weekly email to our systems analyst. So with that, we had to make sure that the data that we extracted from the two applications were showing the data that we wanted. And so with that, you have to really work with developer to get the right data. In terms of the quality of it, since it is directly extracting from the database, it's just a report that we're creating. So there wasn't too many issues with that part of it, but just getting the right things there.
Hi, my name is Tim Van Dyke, and I am a second-year intern here on the platform engineering or cloud team. So I am going to be a junior at Grand Valley State University this year. I'm in the honors college there, and our motto is live, learn, lead. So we are supposed to be academic and lifestyle leaders for anyone, and good examples to all. And my major is computer science, and I'm adding 2 minors this year, business and math. My project this year was involving the 2 tools, Packer and Ansible. Packer is a tool that you use to build images from either ISO files or duplicate VMware or Amazon machine image templates, and Ansible is used to customize the images with apps and other customizations after the image is built. The goal of using these tools is to move to continuous integration, continuous deployment as a framework for how we can do image building and infrastructure here at Amway. So as I started my project, what I had to do was actually completely learn Packer and Ansible from scratch. No one on my team really knew what they were outside of the names and a little bit about what they did, but they weren't even sure that these were the right tools at that point. There was one person on our team who left right as I joined who had done very little discovery work, but a little bit on how they work and how to install them. So I picked up where he left off, and I delivered an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, where it was a script to install Packer and Ansible on a control Red Hat server. And then from that server, I have documentation for how to duplicate images on both public cloud and private cloud. So that's my deliverable so far, and also I've done a lot of documentation to make that consumable for people so that they can pick up where I leave off. Also from this project, I have gotten further experience on the Agile team, or working in an Agile team. I went to daily sprint, or daily stand-up meetings, and I also learned how to write stories with the Agile methodology in mind, which is, for me, it would be as a platform engineer, my goal is to use Packer and Ansible to save time. And then thank you to Steve Schofield, my advisor, because he helped me a lot and answered a lot of my questions and encouraged me and gave me a lot of feedback that helped me a lot this internship. I have grown so much here at Amway. As a second-year intern, I came in and I wasn't very confident necessarily my first few days, especially my first year. I didn't have a lot of confidence. And then this year, I still had to grow more confidence. And now I'm confident enough to be in front of you here talking, and everything's good. And I just learned to be comfortable with people and also to be comfortable asking questions and other things like that. But I also learned how to use agile methodologies and shift gears quickly. That's a very important skill. I got exposure to so many infrastructure technologies, such as Packer, Ansible, Amazon Web Services, VMware, Red Hat, and many others. And I also learned how to better document processes for consumption by my team. I made Confluence pages for both duplicating images in public cloud and private cloud from scratch with no knowledge of Packer and Ansible. And I was able to get people up and running and actually executing code in under an hour with those. And that took it's like several weeks to build those. So that was really cool that they were able to learn that quickly. And they're already in use. Steve Schofield has versions of it in pre-production right now, and he hopes to be using them in production soon, as far as I know. And other people in areas around me are also using my work, leveraging Ansible to customize images. Thank you to Amway IT. This experience further confirms my love for IT, and I really like getting my hands on technologies and making something that doesn't work quite how people need it to work into something that's very useful and time-saving for people. I'm gaining confidence in asking questions and getting feedback and using that feedback and applying it. And I also got a lot of experience in automation technologies and Linux scripting, and I really like automation. I also really enjoyed my experience at Amway because it's a global company. From my chair in Grand Rapids, I was able to be in meetings with people in both Malaysia and China, and that was an eye-opening experience for me. I haven't really left West Michigan outside of family vacations. I haven't lived anywhere else, and being able to communicate with other people has been really cool. And just the idea of work by design and working from home and being able to contact team members while they're not there, it just felt really natural, and I think Amway's done a really good job with work by design. Also, I got a lot of valuable real-world project experience. I didn't have the answers in a textbook in the back. I didn't have, some of the stuff was very poorly documented online. So I was able to learn the idea of asking questions and learning how to troubleshoot and reading through logs and other things like that. And that's another way that Steve helped me a lot, is just like learning how to troubleshoot things when the answers aren't in the back of the textbook. So moving forward, I'm going to finish my education at Grand Valley State University and graduate in May 2020. I'm adding minors to my transcript because I have space for them in my schedule to and still graduate on time. So I'm adding math and business because it just interests me in general. Moving forward in my professional career, I'd love to come back to Amway next year and beyond then. I really enjoy working at Amway, and I'm excited for anything I can get my hands on. Do you have any questions?
What would you take back to your college? What would you say, hey, this is what would help our curriculum with the things that you've learned by being in the practical world of corporate?
What I would take back is I would emphasize that what you're learning at school in the classroom is more how to learn than the tools themselves. I didn't use any Java, I didn't use any C++ or anything like that this internship, but that's where I've spent a lot of my time at school, is learning languages, learning coding. But it's more about learning the mindset of a coder than actually learning the language itself. So I would emphasize that professors should emphasize that it's important to get into the mindset more than learn the technology.
So I'm as surprised as everyone else is that we're actually on time. So for the conclusion, first off, I want to thank all of the talented, capable, and business-minded interns. So if we can give them one last round of applause. And echoing what a lot of them had said is thank you for coming out, spending some time, investing your time with the interns. And For me, I'm going to actually add agile practices to the intern program, especially the IT intern program, because I learned a lot today, and I will iterate on that. I have a lot of sprints and epics to set. So with that, feel free to hang out, socialize a little bit. We have the room till the end of the day. So anyways, thanks everyone for coming.